How can you be Hasidic and be on the internet and using a smartphone? That's a question that I was asked in one of the comments, and I think it's a great question. I think many people associate Chasidism with anti-internet worldview, and there's very good reason for that. That's because many Hasidim do have a very anti-internet worldview. So let's go ahead and discuss this and break it down so that you can understand why I am on the internet and I am not ashamed to do so. Now, the first thing that you need to know is the Hasidic world is not monolithic. There are different groups within the Hasidic world, and within each group there are individuals with their own worldviews and their own personal opinions and their own thoughts and their own taste and their own preferences. So bear that in mind. There should never be blanket statements made about anybody. However, it is true that there is a segment of the ultra-Orthodox world that does consider internet to be an absolute no-go, but they're not everybody. So some groups within the ultra-Orthodox and the Hasidic world will say that the internet is a bracha, it is a blessing. How so? It can be used for tremendous good. It can be used for transmitting Torah. It can be used for medical purposes. It can be used for educational purposes. It's a tool that has to be used in the correct way. And of course, that's not negating that there are dangers. There definitely are dangers, and we do need to be aware of them, and we need to know how to navigate them. And then, of course, there's that other ideology, that internet is absolutely impure, it should not be touched under any circumstances whatsoever. Though there are exceptions made when it comes to work and this and that, but it's definitely considered a no-go, generally speaking. Even within this group, there are going to be individuals who ignore this idea and just laugh it off and say it's not true. There are going to be individuals who clandestinely use the internet. And there are going to be individuals who hold very, very stark to this. They're going to say there's no way I'm touching the internet or any technology that has internet capacity or even any moving video. They won't even watch videos of their own children, okay? It's not something that some people are willing to touch. They say it is inherently impure. Now, I personally hold to the first thought group. The second thought group, I don't believe is based upon fact. I don't believe that the internet is inherently impure, and I think that's a dangerous mode of thinking. And let me explain why. Internet is information transfer. Okay, it's information transfer. It is a tool to transmit information. Now the question is, what kind of information are you transmitting? Are you transmitting good kosher information? Are you transmitting helpful information? Information that is for the benefit of society? Or are you transmitting garbage? Things that will bring down society, that will corrode society? What kind of information is being transmitted? That's the big question. You can have pure information being transmitted and you can have very impure information being transmitted. It doesn't change the fact that the tool itself is neutral. It's kind of like a cow, right? Take a cow, for instance. A cow can be shechted and it can be made into kosher meat, which would be a mitzvah for a Jew to eat should they choose to eat beef, right? Now, if the cow is not properly shechted and a Jew chose to eat that meat, it would be a sin for them to eat it. It would be a very, very bad thing for them to eat it. But the cow itself is neutral. It's how you use it. And that's the same thing with the internet. How are you using it? Now, the problem with this mode of thinking that the internet is inherently impure is very dangerous, because what happens when a person who's not in the best state of mind, they say, you know what, I am going to use that internet. And they decide to break the rules and go touch this impure tool. They're going to feel like I'm doing something wrong, and they're going to have a sense of shame inside of them the first time they use it. They're going to think I'm a sinner, and that might lead them to shame spiral. And when a person is thinking of themselves negatively, then that makes them more predisposed to doing negative things. Whereas if a person knows that the internet is neutral, it is a tool and it can be abused, but it can also be used for good, holy things, then they have more balanced free will and they can choose better things. Now, I'm not saying that everybody is always going to choose the right things. We have free will and we can be drawn into things that we shouldn't be drawn into. There definitely is that danger. But let's be factual. The internet is not impure as a tool. It's just not. Like, we can't say that. It's not true. It's not emes. And we need to provide factual information for people so that they can adequately choose their path in life. We don't want people walking around filled with shame. We don't want people walking around feeling that they're sinners for just having curiosity, for wanting to go learn Torah on the internet. We don't want people hiding under their covers and feeling like they're doing something wrong by touching the internet. That's not healthy. So this battle against the internet, in my view, is completely misguided. We shouldn't be battling the internet itself as a tool. We should be battling shame, negative self-image, the Yetzer Hara. We should be building strong people who know that they are Chelek Elokam Ma'al Mamash. We should be bringing people up to serve God through all the tools available, and not just saying, hey, don't interact with the world around you because you're not strong enough to tolerate the impurities out there. It's the wrong mentality in my mind, and it breaks human beings. Yes, it creates people who might toe the line, who might march along the path that they're told. And then we have people who get frustrated, they throw it all away, they say, if this is Yiddishkeit, I don't want it. And it's not Yiddishkeit. It's community-imposed coercion. It's community-imposed control. And we have to trust people a little bit more. We have to build them up and say, hey, you know what? You can make good decisions. You are powerful. You are capable. You were created to be a Mamleches Kohanim V'Goy Kadosh. You were created to be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. You were created to show the world what the Torah is. Hashem trusts you. You're supposed to be a leader. So yeah, we all have a Yetzer Hara. Let's work on building ourselves so that we can handle the battles with the Yetzer Hara. And we might need fences. We might need some guidance. That's okay. But to villainize the entire internet, to villainize a tool, that's not right. I definitely don't go for that mentality. And I think it's very detrimental. Thankfully, I think the younger generation is starting to push back against that. They're starting to say it just doesn't make any sense and it's not true. And people just want to live a Toradic lifestyle. And I think we're going to come into a world in which people embrace the internet for its good qualities. But we really have to take the stance in proper education. Now that actually brings me to the next question. If we're creating shame-filled individuals, how are they going to be able to go out and spread Torah to the entire world? Right? And that's one of the things that I was asked. How can you be a woman on the internet? Isn't that immodest? Now, according to some Hasidim, it definitely would be. But I asked my rabbi because I was struggling with the same issue, and he told me, he's like, how can you limit your voice? You have something to say. If a man is not supposed to be looking at you, that is his responsibility to stay away. If he has some kind of issue that he's going to become aroused by looking at you, it's his responsibility. You're tznius. You're covered in all the places that you need to be. You're speaking modestly. You go ahead. You share your message with the world. You're teaching Torah. There's nothing wrong with it. And I think that's one of those things that the community has become rather extreme in recent years as well. There are certain segments of the Hasidic population, and thank God it's not every single segment, that they have moved towards making women disappear. I recently had a girl who told me that she feels ashamed to be a woman. When she walks on the street, she feels absolutely ashamed to exist because she fears that if a man looks at her, he's going to sin because of her. I told her, I said, Shefala, we need to sit down and talk. We need to completely re-educate. If you're a woman, you don't have to be ashamed to exist. You do have to cover the areas that you're supposed to. You do have to behave with modesty and privacy, but to reduce modesty, to reduce tznius to sensuality, that is so vulgar. To reduce a woman to an object of sensuality, can there be a worse thing? Modesty is about knowing your worth, knowing that you are a piece of God, and behaving in accordance with that, protecting your holiness, and knowing that your holiness can never be completely destroyed, even if chas v'shalom a person was violated. Your holiness, your pentaliyid remains intact. And yes, you have to do things to support it, to allow your holiness to shine forth. So yes, you can be a Hasidic person, you can even be a Hasidic woman on the internet and using a smartphone, but you should always be using it for the service of God. And guess what? Even if you're not Hasidic, if you're Jewish or you're not Jewish, you should be doing the same thing, because each and every single one of us was created for an intimate relationship with God, and all of us should be using His tools only to serve Him and not something else, God forbid.